Hello and welcome to my first ever episode of my new show, Curb Your Bias, where I interview people who have political ideas who are mostly self-proclaimed politicians, which means they're high schoolers, where I oppose them with the ideas of an opposite party they're representing. And I like you to know that I'm an immigrant, born in our country, making this for Americans. This doesn't really feel right. And uh, and today we'll be reviewing the most big elephant in the room. Not this. Wait, where's my finger? Where's my finger? This. Not the Republican Party. The COVID-19.
To adjust as the coronavirus crisis grows. Meg Oliver is at an empty middle school in Montclair.
Like any jokes told in America, there are out to be some people who disagree.
The sheep are gone. If you haven't seen Plandemic,
I think this was all planned by the Democratic Party.
Do you believe the numbers and the news that's being reported by the mainstream news media?
You've been brainwashed.
Due to this handful amount of people, most people believe that the entire Republican Party believe COVID's not real, and they do this. But I'm here to prove that wrong with a progressive conservative. So not the entire conservative party, which is kind of impossible. So his name is Max, and let's go to him, shall we? Well, hello, Max. Good to be feeling good to be on the show. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool actually. I've always wanted to be, I like to talk about politics, and I've always wanted to be interviewed on something like this, and this is probably the first time. So,
great.
Yeah, thank you.
So our first ever topic is going to be about the big elephant in the room, COVID-19, and how it's affecting America.
COVID-19 is probably the worst thing that's happened to the world in a while, because for a while, like 2018, 2019, so we hadn't had anything like this where like people had to be so disconnected from each other, like stay in your house, and if you happen to get this virus, you could die. It's not like the flu. And so COVID-19 is definitely dangerous, and seriously, contrary to what people would probably think, considering like my political affiliation. I think it's dangerous, and I actually know somebody who was in the hospital for like 6 weeks and had it and still can't breathe as good as she used to. The worst thing that's happened to the world in a while, I think it's dangerous.
Wait, he agrees that COVID's real? Okay, maybe he is progressive. Let's move to the second question, shall we? That's great. So, you were said to be self-proclaimed progressive conservative, is that correct?
Self-proclaimed progressive conservative, which I guess would fall under the independent category.
So this is a really important question that I'm going to ask you, and this has been a really big topic. Do you think phone tracking will help reduce the number of COVID-19 cases happening in the United States?
Phone track exposure. Apple has released exposure notifications. It's on my phone. I haven't turned it on.
I mean, I'm talking about phone tracking where the government knows where.
They do. Yeah. So, like, what they'll do is they'll give you a notification of where you've been. There are a large number of reported COVID cases. Losing a little bit of privacy is worth not dying from COVID, and we're going to stop the spread if everybody knows where COVID is. So, to be honest, I do support that, and I don't think it's bad.
That sounds pretty progressive to me. Now let's move to more touchy subjects. So this is one of the biggest thing happening right now. Should we go back to school?
And this is a very I want to go back to school so badly because it's very hard to learn online. It's very hard to also socialize. But I don't believe we should go back to school. And I actually called FCPS stupid on my Instagram story or something like that a few weeks ago, because they want to bring us back in late January, and I'm like, they're already starting to bring back like elementary school kids.
Now, yeah, I do agree with that. Unfortunately, as the name states, I gotta be really biased and contradict persons. So because you're progressive, I'm gonna share some conservative ideas because you're a little bit more to the left than usual conservatives. So if the statistics show that mortality amongst an infant to a 19-year-old, the mortality is almost zero. Shouldn't that be safe enough? Even the teachers who should be always washing their hands, wearing masks, shouldn't it be safe to go back to school if the mortality is so low amongst children and teenagers?
Well, I mean, okay, so there have been cases, and I don't have exact names and dates and stuff like that, but there have been cases where people who are teenagers and younger children have gotten fatal COVID cases. So even though the mortality rate, which is a statistic taking the data that isn't like real life, like it's prediction data, like it's an educated guess almost. Like they're taking data, but like COVID, you don't know. COVID is a very unknown disease because we know some things about it, but we really don't know a lot about it. And so I think that it's very unsafe to say. It's very stupid to say like, well, the mortality rate is low because here's what's happened so far. But if the mortality rate was really that low, why do the case numbers keep going up?
This is my final question. Do you think that the COVID virus was made by the Chinese government, not by eating bats from Wuhan?
They said it came. There have been viruses around the world that have come from like the bubonic plague came from rats. So it's not unlikely that it did come from bats. But just the thing that shocks me is that China is kind of stable right now. Like they don't have any problems with it anymore. They fixed it right away. They're hiding something. Whether they created the virus, I don't know. I can't say that. But especially considering the fact that there was a Chinese doctor that was very upset when the virus happened. So I don't know if it was created, but I definitely think Chinese doctor in China. But I definitely think that there's something weird going on.
Well, I got two things to say to that as a host. Shouldn't there have been actual scientists who seeked asylum to the United States, and they said themselves that the Chinese government made the COVID-19 for a weapon, a biological weapon, that it wasn't purposely spread, but more as an accident. But if you look at the genetic code, it's an actual really famous code that used by Chinese, and that Chinese scientists who seek the asylum said that the virus was like a Gryffindor, because it cannot be real, it cannot be by nature, it has to be created by a man or mankind. It cannot be made from nature. What do you say to that?
I mean, like I said, I personally don't really feel it just came from a bat in a wet market. It seems unlikely, but so yeah, there is evidence leading that. I would believe that. They say it's a conservative conspiracy theory, but there's enough evidence leading that there is something kind of weird going on there, and it's quite possible in my mind that it was created. Maybe it wasn't, but at this point, I feel like they're doing well, they're fine, and I feel like if you created it, you would also create a cure. So in my mind, they probably have some kind of vaccine already that they're not sharing. But honestly, I don't know. This is speculation. But I just generally think that it is weird that there is all this evidence stacking up to that there is something weird going on with the coronavirus in China, and but the media doesn't want to admit that. I definitely feel like there's definitely something going on over there, and to be honest, I just feel like we need a president, and people are all like, well, you are saying Trump would be better for China because of the economy, you agree? And I'm like, no, okay, here's why. Because Trump is not like Kamala Harris says, oh, China's our friend. Kamala Harris said, Joe Biden says China's not a threat. But then we looked at they're having concentration-style camps in China and filling them with the weird Muslims. And they do call them, they do have them in these concentration-style camps. And it's like, that's just overlooked by the media because nobody will spread anything, nobody will say anything bad about China. And Joe Biden won't say there's anything going wrong with China, wrong going on in China. And so does Kamala Harris. And it's like, that's who we want to deal with China. Because Trump, whether you like Trump or not.
Okay, yeah, I gotta stop you there because this is going from COVID to political, from elections. So I gotta say, yeah. So that's all the time we have because I think this is too much storage for my small MacBook I brought from home. So, so thank you for being on the show. This is really great. There have been a little bit. I'm kind of disappointed. I wish you were way more biased than this good guest that you come with critic ideas and conservative ideas. So I really you just saying you're being too good to be. You're being too good right now. So.
Yeah, no, I know. That's why, like, people are like, well, you know, you're such a. I'm not like right. I'm not a right-wing extremist. I don't identify with that at all.
Yeah.
I really have like almost in the middle. But I just say socially, if we got into more like social policy politics, you would see more conservative, but not even like extreme conservative, more just like moderate conservative,
Yeah.
like stuff like that.
So.
But I definitely. You know,
So thank you for being on the show, and let's hope that you can come back sometimes. So
yeah, anytime. Thank you, Kevin. This was really fun, and I had a good time recording it.
Yeah, me too. Thank you. And there you have it, folks. The interview with the progressive conservative, and we finally got that not all conservative believe COVID's not real. I might be a little bit radical saying that, but that is a topic. But let's go with the theme that not all conservative believe COVID's not real. They almost believe COVID's real. It's that slight radical people who think it's fake. Well, that's today's interview, and good night.